Forspoken might be Square Enix's most Western-influenced game they have ever produced. There is some good that comes with Western design, like an emphasis on responsive action gameplay and an enormous open-world sandbox to explore. On the other hand, Western game design also comes with a ton of baggage. Forspoken was first announced as one of the earliest PlayStation 5 exclusives, as far back as 2020. The staff was mostly made of developers who made Final Fantasy XV, and a lot of the DNA from it made its way into Forspoken. You could see a lot of 15's signature in the visuals and how Forspoken renders its large environments and effects. After several delays, Forspoken is finally here. With the big boom of open-world adventures seemingly over, is Square Enix's latest opus past due? Could it be that Square Enix has a secret masterpiece? Or maybe it is a hopelessly late imitator from the last gen? Find out in this Forspoken review. Forspoken wants to be a crowd-pleasing, epic, open-world action RPG. Every aspect of it is intended to be as inoffensive and safe as possible to appeal to the masses. It has a lot in common with 7th-gen open-world action games like Infamous and Prototype, right down to the elemental powers and the parkour abilities. The story is simplistic and downright predictable, combining elements of a generic isekai and boilerplate hero's journey formula. Frey's quest to find a way back to New York after being transported to Athia couldn't be less interesting. Forspoken's story itself isn't the issue. A large reason that makes the story engaging is Frey, the protagonist. She's an all-you-can-eat buffet of negative traits. From her intense stupidity to her girl boss standoffish rudeness, she's intensely unlikable, and the player is stuck with her. Before Frey's trip to Athia, she manages to prove how much of an idiot she is by losing all her savings by refusing to pick it up. From the start, she is established as a petty car thief, and it's implied that all the money she's acquired was from being a criminal. Her abrasive nature is further compounded by her incessant rudeness to the sentient magical bracelet. The moment Frey acquires the bracelet, all it has done is save her life and endow her with unbelievable magic abilities. She also acts incredibly inconsistent. One moment she's about to kill herself in New York after losing everything, and then she misses the dreadful Democrat-run city. She whines about the break that zombifies people and the weird fantasy monsters, but back at home, she was on the run from gangs that she ripped off. The more Forspoken develops its story, the more you'll feel yourself checked out and disinterested. Most of the story involves Frey seeking out the Tantas, an all-female group of magical warriors, and defeating them. Naturally, Frey also gains their powers when she throws down with them, once again proving New Yorkers are the most violent people in all dimensions. The plot does not have a lot of material to give it substance. There's an attempt at a plot twist, but it's so predictable and the scene direction makes it very obvious. Any player with a working brain cell would be able to figure it out long before the game reveals it, and it feels like it's waiting for a long joke to end. Forspoken's story would have been more tolerable if Frey was a likable character who is smart and cool. She's endlessly snarky and quippy to an exhausting degree. The actress did the best she could with the material given, but there is just no saving the character with how she's written. The world building is also suspect. Athia has only one kingdom left, and it's one of the most generic fantasy settings ever. Other human characters look like they're at a Renaissance fair than some distant dimension. The city is also complexly sexless, and every woman dresses down or is a soldier. It does not ever feel believable. The poor attention to world building extends into Frey, too. She is written like she's a rich person's idea of a poor person. Frey is played by an attractive woman, and her character has no boyfriend, is broke, somehow manages to have an apartment as well. None of this makes any sense at all. Frey's entire concept is less believable than the fire-breathing dragons. Forspoken's scenario and characters are not going to impress anyone, but what does manage to impress is the game's engine and the technical attributes. The time that went into this game did not go into the story, it went into making it into a technological marvel. Athia is massive. The draw distance is as far away as a feminist is close to a gym. The various and procedural rock formations prevent any repetition and make the world look so very natural. Frey's animation systems are also very complex. She reacts and shifts her weight as she steps and runs. Her footwork also has inverse kinematics as she moves up and down in varying geometry. The varying materials that make up the environment make it feel as it was made from millions of years of erosion. The smoke and the fog effects are also convincing and go a long way in establishing the atmosphere. A special mention should be given to the cloth and the hair physics, which sway and bounce realistically. When Frey dashes at top speeds, the convincing flutter of her cape and the way her hair whooshes back add to that sensation of speed. When doing parkour or dodging enemy missiles, Frey's dangling bits and accessories fling around and make that sensation feel palpable. Particle effects and debris from Frey's magic are a highlight. The boys at Luminous Productions have come a long way since Final Fantasy XV and are much more ambitious. Some of the magic is massive in scale, and you get a sense of Frey's terrible power and how devastating she is in battle. The animation system is also quick to react to the player's input so that Frey's poses and gestures snap into position naturally and responsively. There is no doubt that Square Enix poured a ton of time and money into the technology that powers Forspoken. You can see that money burning on the screen whenever a big battle happens. The visuals give an expensive impression, but they aren't perfect. As advanced as the lighting system is, Forspoken has surprisingly very flat lighting. There is no style or drama to how sequences are lit. Maybe Luminous Productions has lowly interns on lighting duty. It is apparent that the game was capable of beautiful imagery, but was wasted by technicians who are amateurs. It is too bad that all that flash won't save Forspoken from being a typical superpower open-world action game. While the combat has a skill foundation, and there is some room for a skill ceiling, the core experience is the same kind of Ubisoftian big map with a checklist of things to do to pad out the experience. Collecting every single check, collectible, or side activity on the map will add dozens of hours to the playtime. The drawback is that the map will quickly lose all purpose the more you go around picking up all that litter. By the time Frey reaches the endgame, Athia will feel more desolate than the designers intended it to be. Almost all the activities in Athia's massive landscape are in service of seeking purpose to justify all the level up and crafting systems. The environment is also so big that most of it is empty, with only a few pockets of points of interest. All the abandoned towns are made up of copy-pasted buildings and lack of personality. There's a few roaming super monsters that are like mini-bosses, but their HP is so high that fighting them becomes tedious. Frey is very mobile and agile. She can dodge anything, so long bouts with these creatures become a war of attrition and patience, then demanding players become good with the combat. Most of the issues with Forspoken's gameplay are products of its genre and can be applied to any similar game like Ghost of Tsushima or Horizon Forbidden West. If you like those games, you're gonna like Forspoken. If you don't like them or feel exhausted thinking about them, then Forspoken won't change your mind. What drags Forspoken down is its utterly repugnant protagonist who's written by a bunch of out-of-touch cynical Hollywood hacks. The story is inoffensive and takes no risks and relies on very obvious and heavy-handed symbolism. The only staff members who worked on Forspoken who should be commended are the engineers who refined the game engine and the combat system programmers. The tech that made the game possible is the showstopper, not the game itself. Aside from the game's engine, Forspoken has dated open-world gameplay, a lame story, embarrassing dialogue, and the lighting sucks.